The Galaxy Council had watched Earth for 300 years. 12 powerful species ruled the known universe, and they had seen countless young civilizations rise and fall. But Earth was different. Earth was strange. Earth was silent. Admiral Vaughn stood before the council chamber, his scaled skin reflecting the cold blue light of a dozen holographic displays. He was old, even by his species' long standards, and he had spent 50 years studying the small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy. "They know we exist," he said, his voice heavy with confusion. "Their satellites have detected our probes. Their scientists have mapped our trade routes, yet they do nothing. They say nothing." The council members shifted in their seats. This was not how young species behaved. When civilizations discovered faster than light travel, they announced themselves. They demanded recognition. They begged for trade agreements or threatened war. That was the natural order of things. But humans did none of this. Counselor Wren, a tall, pale creature from the collective worlds, leaned forward with interest. "Perhaps they are afraid. Perhaps they understand their weakness and choose to hide. Perhaps," Vaughn agreed, though doubt colored his words. "But their military spending has increased every year for 3 centuries. They build ships they claim are for mining. They construct stations they say are for research. And they watch us constantly. Watching is not threatening," another counselor said dismissively. "They are children playing at being adults. When they are ready, they will come to us with humble requests and open hands." Vaughn wanted to argue, but he had no proof of anything sinister, only a feeling in his old bones that something was wrong. Far across the galaxy, on the orbital station called Horizon, Commander Yuna reviewed the latest intelligence reports. She was 43 years old, with sharp eyes and steady hands. For 15 years, she had commanded Earth's most secret military installation, hidden in plain sight among civilian research platforms. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Tejo, entered the command center with fresh data tablets. He was younger, more impatient, and he questioned their mission every single day. 300 years of hiding," he said, setting down the tablets. "The council thinks we are primitive. They think we are afraid. Does that not bother you?" Yuna did not look up from her screens. "No. They laugh at us in their transmissions. They call us dirt crawlers and star-blind fools." "Good." Tejo frowned. He had heard this response many times, but he never understood it. "Good? How is their disrespect good for us?" Now Yuna looked at him. Her eyes held something cold and patient, something that had been passed down through generations of Earth's secret military commanders. When your enemy thinks you are weak, they grow careless. When they think you are stupid, they stop watching. And when they believe they have nothing to fear from you. She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "That is when you are most dangerous." Tejo considered her words. Outside the station's windows, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the black void. Somewhere down there, billions of people lived their lives without knowing what their government had built in the shadows. On the planet's surface, in a bunker buried deep beneath the mountains of what was once called Korea, Chancellor Park Jin-ho held a meeting that did not officially exist. The room was simple and gray, with no decorations and no windows. 12 people sat around a metal table, and each of them commanded enough firepower to burn a continent. "The council has voted," General Wu Jin reported. He was a large man with gray hair and scars on his hands from wars nobody remembered. "They plan to test us. A small incursion into our outer colonies." "When?" Chancellor Jinho asked. He was not a large man, but when he spoke, even generals listened. "Within the month, 3 warships will approach Titan Station and demand surrender." Admiral Hana, the only woman at the table besides the Chancellor's aide, pulled up a holographic display of the solar system. Red dots marked the positions of Earth's hidden fleet, scattered across the darkness like patient wolves. "We can destroy those ships before they finish their first transmission," she said calmly. "The question is whether we want to." Jinho stood and walked to the display. He touched the image of Earth with one finger, then traced outward to the distant stations where humans lived and worked and raised their children. 300 years ago, our ancestors discovered we were not alone. They saw the Council's true nature. They watched young species approach with hope and leave with chains. They saw civilizations resist and disappear. They understood what awaited any world that announced itself to the galaxy. He turned to face his officers. So, they chose silence. They chose to watch and learn and build. They created the doctrine we follow today. Observe, prepare, and never reveal strength until strength must be used. The doctrine has served us well, Wu Jin acknowledged, but doctrines must adapt to circumstances. Yes, Jinho agreed. And the circumstance we face now is simple. The Council is coming to touch our people, to threaten our children, to test whether Earth will bow. He looked at each officer in turn, and in his eyes burned something that had waited 3 centuries for this moment. We will not bow. We will not negotiate. And we will not reveal everything we have built. But we will teach them that silence does not mean submission. We will show them enough to make them afraid, and then we will fall silent again. Admiral Hana nodded slowly. A measured response. Enough to shock, not enough to expose. Exactly. The galaxy will learn that Earth has teeth, but they will not learn how many teeth, or how sharp, or how deep they can bite. Jinho returned to his seat. Prepare the silence breaker, position it near Neptune and wait for my command. The officers rose and saluted. As they filed out, Teho's earlier question echoed in the Chancellor's mind. Did their enemies' disrespect bother him? No, it did not. Because every insult, every dismissal, every arrogant assumption the Council had made for 300 years had given humanity time. Time to build. Time to prepare. Time to become something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that chose patience over pride. A civilization that grew strong in shadow. A people who understood that the loudest voice in the room was rarely the most dangerous. Earth had stayed silent for 3 centuries. Soon, the galaxy would understand why. Titan Station floated in the orange glow of Saturn's largest moon. 12,000 people called it home. Miners, engineers, families, children. They extracted rare minerals from the frozen surface below and sent them back to Earth on cargo ships that made the journey every 3 months. Station Chief Minji had lived on Titan for 40 years. She was 62 now, with white hair and hands that had repaired more machines than she could count. She knew every corridor of the station, every face, every child's name. These were her people. When the alarm started, she was drinking tea in her office. 3 ships, her security officer reported, his voice tight with fear. They just appeared from fold space. No warning, no identification. Minji set down her tea and walked to the command center. Through the reinforced windows, she could see them, 3 vessels, each one larger than the entire station, hanging in the void like predators watching prey. Open a channel, she ordered. The face that appeared on the screen was not human. It belonged to Commander Kale of the Council's 3rd Fleet. His skin was gray, his eyes were black, and his smile showed too many teeth. Humans of this station, he announced, as if reading from a script he found boring. You are in violation of Galactic Territory Provision 7. This space belongs to the Council. You will surrender this installation and submit to processing. Processing? Minji asked calmly. Labor assignment. Your species has proven useful for mining operations in other sectors. Cooperate, and the transition will be painless. Around Minji, her staff stared at the screen in horror. They had heard rumors about the Council's treatment of young species. Slavery dressed in legal language. Families separated, children taken to work in places they would never return from. And if we refuse? Minji asked. Kale's smile widened. Then we demonstrate why refusal is unwise. One of the Council ships powered its weapons. A beam of green light lanced out and struck an empty cargo shuttle drifting near the station. The shuttle vanished in a flash of fire and metal. That was your first lesson, Kale said. You have 1 hour to begin evacuation procedures. Resistance will result in additional lessons. The transmission ended. Silence filled the command center. Chief, her security officer whispered. What do we do? Minji walked to a console that most of her staff had never seen her use. She entered a code that only 3 people on the station knew. And a hidden channel opened to Earth. This is Titan Station, she said quietly. They are here. They have fired. awaiting instructions. The response came not from a faceless bureaucrat, but from Chancellor Jinho himself. Understood, Station Chief. Move your people to the inner chambers. Help is coming. Minji turned to her staff. Her voice was steady, the voice of a woman who had waited her whole life for this moment without knowing it. Everyone below Deck 5. Seal the bulkheads. Stay away from the outer sections. Chief, someone asked. What about the council ships? Minji looked out the window at the 3 massive vessels. At their weapons still glowing with power. At Commander Kale's flagship where he probably sat laughing at the frightened humans. They are not our problem, she said. They just do not know it yet. In the bunker beneath the Korean mountains, General Woojin watched the situation unfold through satellite feeds. Around him, officers monitored 100 different screens, tracking every council ship in the solar system. The silence breaker is in position, Admiral Hana reported. Captain Junho awaits the order. Chancellor Jinho stood at the center of the room, his hands clasped behind his back. 300 years of preparation had led to this moment. Countless lives spent building, planning, waiting, and now, because some alien commander wanted to steal human children for labor camps, the waiting was over. Show me the ship, he said. The main display shifted to show empty space near Neptune. To any observer, there was nothing there. Just darkness and distant stars. Decloak, Jinho ordered. In the void, reality seemed to shimmer. A shape emerged from nothing, growing larger and larger until it blocked out the stars behind it. The silence breaker was not just a warship. It was a statement. 2 kilometers of black metal and hidden weapons, built in secret shipyards that the council did not know existed. Captain Junho sat in the command chair, surrounded by officers who had trained their entire lives for a battle they hoped would never come. He was 40 years old, calm and patient. Like all humans who served in the hidden fleet, he understood the weight of what they carried. Open a channel to the council vessels, he ordered. All frequencies. His communications officer nodded. Channel open, Captain. Junho leaned forward. This is Earth vessel silence breaker to unidentified warships near Titan Station. You have attacked a civilian installation. You have threatened human lives. You have 30 seconds to power down all systems and surrender. On the council flagship, Commander Kale received the transmission with disbelief. His tactical officers were screaming about a massive vessel that had appeared from nowhere. But he refused to believe it. 1 ship? He laughed. They send 1 ship against 3? These humans truly are as stupid as we believed. He ordered his weapons to target the human vessel. His officers obeyed. That was their last mistake. The silence breaker's main weapon was not a laser or a missile. It was something human scientists had developed in secret over 2 centuries. Something that bent the laws of physics in ways the Council had never imagined. The first Council ship simply stopped existing. One moment it was there, weapons charging. The next moment, there was only light. So bright and terrible that sensors across the solar system went blind. Commander Kale stopped laughing. What was that? He screamed at his tactical officer. Unknown weapon signature. It is not in our databases. It is not possible. The second council ship tried to run. Its engines flared as it attempted to enter fold space and escape. It traveled approximately 400 meters before the silence breaker's second shot erased it from the universe. Kale stood frozen on his bridge. His crew stared at their screens in horror. In less than 10 seconds, 2 of the council's finest warships had been destroyed by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Power down all weapons, Kale whispered. Commander, do it, he screamed. Power down everything, now. The silence breaker drifted closer, silent and dark, like death itself crossing the void. A shuttle launched from its bay, carrying a boarding team led by Lieutenant Soo-hyun. When the humans entered the council bridge, they moved with calm efficiency. They secured the crew, disabled the ship's communications, and brought Soo-hyun to face Commander Kale. She was young, perhaps 30, with a face that showed no anger, no triumph, no emotion at all. Just patience. The captain has questions, she informed Kale. Answer them honestly, and you may return home to deliver our message. Kale's voice trembled. What message? Soo-hyun looked at him the way a teacher looks at a student who has failed a simple test. That Earth silence was never weakness. that our patience was never fear, and that if the council touches our people again, you will not see us coming. She turned and walked away, leaving Kale alone with the knowledge that everything his civilization believed about humanity was wrong. 300 years, the humans had waited. Now the galaxy would begin to understand why. The interrogation room aboard the Silence Breaker was small and cold. Commander Kale sat in a metal chair, his gray hands bound to the table in front of him. Across from him sat Captain Junho, studying the alien with eyes that held no hatred, only curiosity. You came to take our people as slaves, Junho said quietly. Why? Kale's black eyes darted around the room. He had commanded warships for 60 years. He had conquered 12 worlds. He had never felt fear like this. It is the way of things, he answered. Young species serve older ones. It has always been so, always, for 10,000 years. Since the council was formed, the strong rule, the weak serve. This is the natural order. Junho leaned back in his chair. He thought about his grandmother, who had told him stories of old Earth, when humans had believed the same things. The strong ruling the weak. Nations conquering nations. It had taken centuries of war and suffering for humanity to learn a different way. Tell me about the council, he said. Tell me about the 12 species. Kale hesitated. But something in Junho's calm voice made resistance seem pointless. So he talked. He explained how the 12 ruling species had fought each other for millennia before forming their alliance. He described how they divided the galaxy into territories, how they claimed young civilizations as resources, how they eliminated any species that grew too strong or too independent. We thought you would be easy, Kale admitted. Your planet is small. Your species is young. You had no presence in galactic affairs. We assumed you were hiding because you knew your place. And now? Kyle looked at the walls around him, at the technology he could not understand, at the soldiers who moved with perfect discipline. Now I do not know what you are. Junho stood and walked to a small window. Through it, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere out there, the council was learning that their assumptions had been wrong. We are human, he said simply. We are patient, and we remember everything. He turned back to face the alien commander. You will return to the council with a message. You will tell them what happened here. You will tell them that Earth has no interest in war, no desire for conquest, no need for their territory or their trade. But you will also tell them this. Junho placed both hands on the table and leaned forward. If they touch our people again, if they threaten our homes, if they try to take our children for their labor camps, we will not send one ship. We will not give warnings. We will simply end them. Kale shuddered. In his long career, he had heard many threats. Empty words from desperate species trying to sound brave. But this human's voice held no desperation, only certainty. They will not believe me, Kale whispered. The council will think I am mad. Then they will test us again, and again. Until they learn. Junho straightened. We are patient. We have waited 300 years. We can wait 300 more. On Earth, Chancellor Jinho addressed the Shadow Council for the first time since the attack. The bunker was silent as officers reviewed the battle data from Titan Station. 2 ships destroyed, General Wu Jin reported. 1 captured. 0 human casualties. The Silence Breaker sustained no damage. And the Council's response? Jinho asked. Admiral Hana pulled up intercepted communications. Confusion. Panic. They are recalling fleets from across the galaxy. They do not know how many ships we have or where they are hidden. Good. Let them guess. A young officer named Sora raised her hand. She was new to the Shadow Council. Promoted just last year for her work in intelligence analysis. Chancellor, if I may ask, why did we not destroy all 3 ships? Why leave a survivor? Jinho smiled slightly. It was a fair question. Because we are not monsters, Lieutenant. We do not kill without purpose. The first 2 ships were destroyed to demonstrate our capability. The third was spared to deliver our message. Fear is a tool. But mercy is also a tool. We must know when to use each one. Sora nodded slowly, understanding dawning on her face. There is another reason, Jinho continued. The Council has ruled through fear for 10,000 years. They expect young species to respond with rage, with reckless attacks, with emotional reactions they can exploit. By showing restraint, we confuse them. They do not know how to respond to an enemy who strikes precisely and then falls silent. General Wujin grunted in approval. The old doctrine. Maximum effect, minimum exposure. Exactly. They know we have one powerful ship now. They do not know about the other 47. They do not know about the weapons platforms hidden in asteroid fields. They do not know about the defense systems buried on every moon and station. Jinho's voice hardened. And they will not know until the day we decide to show them. Across the solar system, on Titan Station, Station Chief Minji watched the silence breaker through her window. The massive ship hung in space like a guardian spirit, its dark hull absorbing the light of distant stars. Her people were emerging from the inner chambers now, confused and frightened, but alive. Children who had been crying were now staring at the human warship with wonder in their eyes. Chief, her security officer said. We are receiving a transmission from the ship. Minji nodded. Put it through. Captain Junho's face appeared on her screen. He looked tired but satisfied. Station Chief Minji, the threat has been neutralized. The Council will not bother you again for some time. Thank you, Captain, my people. We did not know ships like yours existed. Few do. And we would like to keep it that way, if you understand my meaning. Minji did understand. Everything she had seen today would remain secret. The silence breaker would fade back into whatever shadow it had come from. Life would continue as normal, and the 12,000 people of Titan Station would carry a secret they could never share. I understand, Captain. We saw nothing today. Good. Junho paused. Station Chief, may I ask you something? Of course. Were you afraid? When they came? Minji thought about the question. She thought about the Council ships appearing without warning, about Commander Kale's threats, about the cargo shuttle exploding in fire. Yes, she admitted. I was afraid. But not for myself. I was afraid for my people, for the children who play in the corridors, for the families who have built their lives here. She straightened her shoulders. I was afraid we were alone. Junho smiled, and for a moment, the cold mask of the military commander softened into something warmer. You were never alone, Station Chief. Earth remembers all its children, no matter how far they travel. We watch, we wait, and when you need us, we come. The transmission ended. Minji stood at her window for a long time, watching as the silence breaker slowly moved away, growing smaller and smaller until it vanished against the darkness of space. Somewhere in that darkness, humanity waited, patient, prepared, silent, but no longer invisible. The galaxy had received its first lesson. Station Chief Minji suspected there would be more to come. The Council chamber had not seen such chaos in 3,000 years. 12 species, each representing billions of lives, screamed at each other across the great circular hall. Holographic displays showed the destroyed warships over and over. Data analysts ran projections that made no sense. Military commanders demanded explanations that no one could provide. High Counselor Tarn was the oldest living member of the Council. His species measured time differently than most, and he had served in this chamber for over 800 years. He had seen wars and plagues and cosmic disasters, but he had never seen anything like this. Silence, he commanded, and his voice carried the weight of centuries. The chamber fell quiet. Representatives lowered themselves into their seats, though tension still crackled through the air like electricity. Admiral Vaughn, Tarn said, you have studied the humans longer than anyone. Explain this. Vaughn rose from his position among the military advisors. His scaled skin looked pale under the chamber lights. I cannot explain it, High Counselor. 3 centuries ago, we classified Earth as a pre-industrial civilization, generations away from meaningful space travel. Our last detailed survey showed no military capability beyond primitive nuclear weapons. He spread his clawed hands in helpless confusion. Yet somehow, they have developed technology that surpasses our own. The weapon that destroyed our ships does not match anything in our databases. It should not be possible. Should not be possible. Counselor Wren spat. He had proposed the test that led to this disaster. And now he faced execution demands from half the chamber. Our ships are gone. Our crews are dead. Clearly it is possible, which raises the question, another counselor said coldly. Of what else they have that we do not know about. Silence fell again, heavier this time. For 10,000 years, the Council had been the supreme power in the galaxy. They had crushed rebellions, absorbed civilizations, eliminated threats before they could grow. The idea that a young species could hide such capability for so long was terrifying. We must respond, a military commander declared. Send the full fleet. Destroy their planet before they can strike again. And if they have more ships like the one we saw? Vaughn asked quietly. What if they have defenses we have not detected? We would be starting a war we might not win. Impossible. No species could match our combined forces. 2 weeks ago you would have said no species could destroy our warships in 10 seconds. Yet here we are. The argument erupted again, voices rising in fear and anger. Tarn watched in silence, thinking about the images he had seen. The human ship appearing from nothing, the absolute precision of its attack. The calm voice of its captain, offering surrender terms as if facing 3 warships, was an inconvenience rather than a threat. There is a transmission, an aide announced. From Earth. They are broadcasting on all frequencies. The chamber went silent instantly. Every eye turned to the central display as a human face appeared. It belonged to a woman in her 60s, with silver hair and calm gray eyes. She wore simple clothing, nothing military, nothing threatening, just the quiet confidence of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. To the Galaxy Council, she began. I am Ambassador Unji, and I speak for the people of Earth. Tarn leaned forward. An ambassador, not a general, not a warlord. The humans were sending a diplomat. We know you are afraid. Unji continued. We know you are confused. For 300 years, you watched our planet and saw nothing that concerned you. You believed we were weak, primitive, afraid. You were wrong. She paused, letting the words settle. We watched you too. We listened to your communications. We studied your history. We learned what you do to species that reveal themselves to the galaxy. The exploitation, the slavery, the quiet extinctions when a species becomes inconvenient. Her voice hardened slightly. We chose silence because we understood the truth. In your galaxy, the loud are conquered, the visible are consumed, the proud are destroyed. Counselor Wren shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Everything she said was true. They all knew it was true, but we also chose to prepare. While you dismissed us as primitives, we built. While you ignored us as irrelevant, we invented. While you laughed at the silent little planet at the edge of the galaxy, we became something new. Unji leaned forward, and her calm eyes seemed to look directly at each council member. We did not reveal ourselves with fire because we are not conquerors. We do not want your territory. We do not want your resources. We do not want to rule the galaxy or replace your council with human authority. We want only one thing. She held up a single finger. We want you to change. The chamber remained frozen. No one spoke. No one moved. For 10,000 years, you have preyed on the weak. You have stolen children from their parents. You have erased species for the crime of wanting freedom. We know. We watched. We remember. Unji's voice carried centuries of patient observation, of careful documentation, of cold fury held in check by discipline. This ends now. Not through war, unless you force us to fight. Not through destruction, unless you leave us no choice. But it ends. She stood, and despite being a recorded image, her presence filled the chamber. We are sending coordinates. A neutral point in deep space. We will receive one delegation, unarmed, to discuss the future. No warships, no weapons, just words. She paused. If you come in good faith, you will find us reasonable. If you refuse, we return to silence. And you will spend the next century wondering what we are building. The transmission ended. The council chamber remained silent for a long moment. Finally, Tarn spoke. Observer, Vex, you are our historian. What do you make of this? Observer Vex was small by council standards, a creature of books and records rather than weapons and politics. He had spent decades studying humanity, reading their literature, analyzing their history. They mean what they say, he answered quietly. I have studied their past. They are capable of great violence, but also great restraint. Their history is full of terrible wars, but also of peace following war. They learn, they adapt, they remember. Can they be trusted? Vex considered the question carefully. They have shown us only a fraction of their capability. If they wanted war, they could have struck without warning. Instead, they send an ambassador and offer to talk. He looked around the chamber, at the frightened faces of the galaxy's rulers. I believe they can be trusted to do exactly what they say. Help the weak, and they will be allies. Threaten their people, and they will destroy us. Tarn nodded slowly. Then we have a choice to make. There is no choice, Counselor Wren insisted. We cannot show weakness. We must respond with overwhelming force before they grow stronger. You proposed the test that led to this disaster, another counselor snapped. Perhaps you should remain silent. The arguments began again. But Tarn was no longer listening. He was thinking about the human ambassador's eyes, the patience in them, the certainty. For 10,000 years, the council had ruled through fear. Now, for the first time, they faced a species that had turned that strategy against them. Earth had been afraid. Earth had prepared. And now Earth was offering the galaxy a chance to become something better. Tarn did not know if the council would take that chance. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The age of easy conquest was over. The humans had made sure of that. And somewhere in the darkness of space, they were still watching. The station appeared in empty space exactly 72 hours after Earth sent the coordinates. It was a perfect sphere of white metal, large enough to hold 1,000 people, equipped with meeting rooms and communication systems, and nothing else. No weapons, no defenses, just a place for conversation. The council delegation arrived in a single transport ship. Arbiter Pyra had been chosen for her diplomatic experience, her ability to remain calm in crisis, her reputation for fairness. She brought 4 advisors and 2 guards. Though the guards felt pointless under the circumstances, the human delegation was smaller. Chancellor Jinho, Admiral Hana, and Ambassador Unji. 3 people representing a species that had just humbled the greatest military power in the galaxy. The meeting room was circular, with a table that held refreshments neither side would touch. Pyra studied the humans as she entered. They were smaller than most council species, fragile-looking, with soft skin and short lives, yet something in their eyes made her uncomfortable. "Thank you for coming," Unji said, gesturing to seats. "We understand this requires courage or desperation," Pyra replied, taking her seat. "Your demonstration was effective. The council is prepared to discuss terms." Chancellor Jinho shook his head slowly. His movement was gentle, almost sad. "There are no terms," he said. "There is only understanding." He raised his hand, and holographic displays filled the room. Star maps appeared, showing the entire galaxy. Red dots marked council military positions. Blue dots marked their supply routes. Yellow dots marked their shipyards, their communication hubs, their secret research facilities. "We know where your fleets are stationed. We know your defensive weaknesses. We know that the 12 species have spent millennia in Cold War with each other, united only in exploiting younger civilizations." Jinho let the images hang in the air. "We have watched you for 300 years, Arbiter. We know your secrets better than you know ours." Pyra felt cold. The intelligence represented in these displays would have taken centuries to gather. Spies in every system. Listening posts throughout council space. A web of observation so vast it defied imagination. "We could have struck first," Jinho continued. "We could have announced ourselves with fire instead of words. Our ships could reach your homeworlds in hours. Your fleets could not stop them." He leaned forward. "But we did not. Do you understand why?" Pyra forced her voice to remain steady. "Tell me," Ambassador Unji answered. "Because we are not what you feared. We do not want your territory. We do not want your resources. We do not want to rule the galaxy or replace your council with human authority." "Then what do you want?" Pyra demanded. The question burst from her with genuine confusion. Every species wanted something. Power, wealth, territory, influence. That was the nature of intelligent life. Admiral Hana smiled. It was the first human expression Pyra had seen that was not cold or calculating. There was warmth in it, and something that might have been hope. We want the bullying to stop, Hana said simply. The exploitation of developing worlds, the theft of children for labor camps, the quiet murders of species who refuse to submit. You want us to change, Pyra said slowly. You want us to abandon 10,000 years of tradition. Yes, that is impossible. The Council will never agree. The ruling species will never give up their privileges. Jinho stood and walked to the window. Outside, stars burned in the eternal darkness. Somewhere out there, 47 human warships drifted in silence, ready to strike at any threat to their homeworld. 300 years ago, he said quietly, my ancestors faced a choice. They could reveal themselves to the galaxy and hope for the best, or they could stay silent and prepare for the worst. He turned to face Pyra. They chose silence. They chose patience. They chose to build in shadow until they were ready. He walked back to the table and extended his hand toward Pyra. It was a human gesture she had studied but never experienced. Earth will resume its silence now, he said. We will watch. We will wait. And if the Council continues as it has, if you prey on the weak, if you steal children from their families, if you extinguish the innocent, you will not hear us coming. Pyra stared at his outstretched hand. It was small, fragile-looking, attached to a body that could be broken so easily. Yet behind that hand stood a civilization that had outprepared the galaxy's greatest powers. But if you choose to change, Jinho continued, if you build a galaxy worth joining, if you treat young species as partners instead of resources, then perhaps, one day, we will speak again. We will share our technology. We will join your council as equals. We will help you become something better than what you are. Pyra took his hand. It was warm, surprisingly strong for something so small. And if we refuse? She asked. If the council decides to test humanity again? Jinho's grip tightened slightly. His eyes held 3 centuries of patience, 3 centuries of preparation, 3 centuries of waiting for this moment. Then you will discover what 300 years of preparation truly looks like, he said softly. We have been silent, arbiter. We have never been passive. He released her hand and stepped back. The choice is yours. We will be watching. The meeting ended. The council delegation returned to their transport ship and began the long journey home. Pyra sat in silence the entire way, thinking about what she had seen and heard. Back on Earth, Chancellor Jinho stood at the window of his office, watching the sun set over the mountains. Admiral Hana and Ambassador Unji stood behind him. Do you think they will change? Hana asked. Some will, Jinho replied. Some species will be inspired. Others will be frightened into compliance. And some will plot revenge, convinced they can find a way to defeat us. And if they attack, then we respond. Precisely. Overwhelmingly. And then we fall silent again. Jinho turned to face his officers. This is the doctrine our ancestors created. Patience, preparation, restraint. It served us for 300 years. It will serve us for 300 more. Unji nodded slowly. The galaxy will talk about today for generations. The silent species that suddenly spoke. The primitive world that humbled the council. Let them talk, Jinho said. Let them wonder. Let them fear what they do not understand. He looked out at the darkening sky, where the first stars were beginning to appear. Somewhere out there, young species are watching the same stars we watch. They are afraid, just as we were afraid. They are hiding, just as we hid. He smiled, and there was warmth in it. The warmth of hope. Perhaps, when they see what we have done, they will find the courage to stand as well. Perhaps they will learn that silence does not mean surrender. Perhaps they will understand that patience is the greatest weapon of all. In the depths of space, human ships drifted in darkness. Their crews, men and women with names like Do-hyun and Nari and Hyunwoo and Jisoo, maintained their stations and watched the void. They were the inheritors of a patient world, the children of a civilization that had chosen wisdom over pride. They were in no hurry. They had learned to wait, and the galaxy, whether it knew it or not, would never be the same. Earth had spoken. Now Earth fell silent again, watching the stars, guarding its children, preparing for whatever came next. Some things are worth waiting for. Humanity understood that better than anyone.